Okay, so everyone knows the story of Jonah, right? The prophet, the big storm, the giant fish. It's one of the most famous stories out there. But what if I told you the fish isn't even the most interesting part? The real story, the real mind-blowing message, is actually hidden in plain sight, in all the details we usually just gloss over.
I mean, really think about it for a second. The whole thing is kind of weird. A prophet gets a direct command from God and just runs away. And then when he finally does what he's told and succeeds beyond anyone's wildest dreams, he gets angry about it. It's a bizarre reaction, to say the least. To understand what's really going on, we have to look past the whale and dig into the world Jonah was living in. So first up, let's meet our main character. Jonah was a prophet in Israel, and he was working during a time when the country was actually doing pretty well. But his story kicks off with a command from God and, well, a pretty shocking act of defiance.
God's instruction could not be clearer. Go to Nineveh. And what's Jonah's response? Immediate, total disobedience. He goes down to the docks and books passage on a ship headed for Tarshish, which is literally in the opposite direction. He's trying to get as far away from this mission as humanly possible. So the big question is, why?
To solve this mystery, we need our first major clue, and it's all about understanding who exactly God sent him to. Who were the Ninevites? Well, Nineveh wasn't just any city. It was the capital of the Assyrian Empire, and that changes everything.
See, Assyria wasn't some distant, unknown land. For over a century, they had been this massive, growing threat on Israel's horizon. Israel had already fought battles against them. They'd even been forced to pay tribute just to be left alone. For an Israelite like Jonah, Assyria wasn't just an enemy, they were the enemy.
And we're not talking about your average enemy here. The Assyrians were infamous for their brutality. I mean, they were masters of psychological warfare, known for their absolutely ruthless tactics and cruel treatment of anyone they conquered. So sending Jonah to help them, that would be like sending a resistance fighter to go save the capital city of an invading army. It's unthinkable.
But here's the crucial bit of timing. At this specific moment in history, this brutal empire was actually uniquely vulnerable. They were dealing with infighting, famine, and they had even just seen a solar eclipse, which in the ancient world was basically the ultimate bad omen. So they were primed, maybe even desperate, to hear a message of doom from some foreign prophet who shows up out of nowhere.
Okay, so Assyria's brutality explains why Jonah hated them so much, but it doesn't quite explain his actions. For the second clue, we have to look away from Assyria and turn our attention back to Jonah's own country, Israel.
On the surface, things in Israel were great. It was a time of economic boom, military expansion. In fact, Jonah himself had actually prophesied this success. But underneath that shiny exterior, the nation was rotting from the inside. Other prophets, guys like Amos and Hosea, were basically screaming about the deep-seated corruption and how Israel had totally turned its back on God.
And you know what? God had a specific way of dealing with this kind of rebellion. This had happened before, not long before Jonah. During the time of Elijah and Elisha, God showed mercy to another one of Israel's enemies, the Syrians. He healed Naaman, a Syrian general, while Israel's own people were left sick. God was using outsiders to get the attention of his own people.
And this wasn't some new strategy he just came up with. It's based on a principle laid out centuries earlier in the book of Deuteronomy. The idea was crystal clear. If God's chosen people reject him, he will turn to a no people, a nation they consider worthless or an enemy, and bless them instead. And the whole point was to provoke his own children to jealousy and hopefully bring them back.
All right, so let's put our two clues together. On one hand, you have a hated, brutal enemy that is suddenly weak and vulnerable. On the other hand, you have a prosperous but deeply rebellious Israel that has been ignoring its own prophets for years. When you put them side by side, the true purpose of Jonah's mission becomes stunningly clear. This right here illustrates the absolute heart of the book. The pagan sailors on the ship, they immediately fear God and start offering sacrifices. The brutal Assyrians, they hear one sermon from a reluctant prophet and the entire city repents dramatically. But God's own people, Israel, they've ignored prophet after prophet for years. Even God's chosen prophet, Jonah himself, runs away and pouts. The outsiders are looking way better than the insiders.
As the scholar John Stex puts it so well, Nineveh's repentance wasn't just about Nineveh. It was a direct, stinging rebuke to Israel. It was God holding up their worst enemy and basically saying, "See, even they listen. Why won't you?"
And that is the key that unlocks the whole story. Jonah understood God's strategy perfectly. He didn't run because he was afraid the Assyrians would kill him. He ran because he was afraid they would listen to him. He knew that their repentance would be the ultimate indictment of his own stubborn country. He was a nationalist who couldn't bear to see his enemies used to shame his own people.
But the story doesn't stop there. Because ultimately, this book isn't really about Jonah's nationalism or even Israel's rebellion. It's about the one who is in complete control of the entire drama from start to finish.
Just look at the story. God is the one doing everything. He isn't a passive observer. He is actively directing every single element. He sends the storm. He appoints the fish. He provides the plant. He appoints the worm. He sends the scorching wind, and he is the one who rebukes the prophet. This story is just a showcase of his absolute sovereignty.
And the message here is just so powerful. Human rebellion cannot stop God's plan. Jonah's sin, his running, his anger, none of it could derail what God intended to do. As Jonah himself declares from the belly of the fish, salvation is of Yahweh. That's God's personal name. And the point is clear. Salvation belongs to God, and he directs it however he pleases.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? The book of Jonah is this masterfully told story demonstrating God's sovereign power. He is able to carry out his saving purposes for anyone he chooses, even his people's worst enemies, and he can do it in spite of the brokenness and rebellion of his own chosen messengers.
And the book ends not with a neat little bow, but with a question. God contrasts Jonah's petty concern for a plant with his own divine concern for over 120,000 people in Nineveh. He asks Jonah, and by extension us, should I not be concerned? And the book just leaves that question hanging in the air, forcing every single reader to confront their own narrow concerns versus God's expansive compassion.
Which leaves us with one final provocative thought. The story of Jonah is a timeless warning. It asks a question that echoes through the centuries. If those who have every privilege and every opportunity to know God consistently turn away, will he simply move on and give those privileges to others who are actually hungry for them? The story of Jonah suggests the answer is a resounding and maybe unsettling yes.